Well, all right, let the fun begin. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
At this point, if we could have everyone make sure you're muted, and we'll turn all the cameras off. And then we'll start our program. Thank you very much. So let me start by saying greetings, fellow color enthusiasts. Welcome to Color Literacy Forum number 2. I'm Lou Ann Stovall, team lead for the Color Literacy Project at the University Level Initiative. Before we begin our program, I want to invite you all to use the chat box to tell us who you are, where you're from, university or professional organization, so we can learn more about each other in this global collaboration. So the chat box will be recorded, so we'll all get to see you. So start putting in your names and where you are. So, and welcome to the Color Literacy Forum. The Color Literacy Forum is a new platform designed to build the next generation of 21st century color education at the university level. The forum offers an opportunity to share innovative teaching methods and resources to expand 21st century color education. The purpose the project is a joint collaboration of the Color Literacy Project in partnership with the ISCC, that is the International Color Association, which is the home of the study group for color education. You'll be hearing more about that later in the program. Also, the Inter-Society Color Council, that's in the USA, and Cumulus, the leading global association of art and design research. Our forum offers an opportunity to share the teaching methods at the university level across all disciplines, from art and design to the sciences. A little bit more about the Color Literacy Project. We're working to expand color education from the top down, that's university level and professional development, and the bottom up, pre-K through secondary education. That's another team initiative with that you'll be hearing about in other programs. Our long-term goal is to share innovative ways to learn about color and offer state-of-the-art resources about the dynamic ways that color operates throughout all aspects of our lives. Fluency with language of color sharpens our visual intelligence, expands our perception, and enhances our ability to communicate. 21st century color literacy is not just for scientists and artists, it's for everybody. So, getting on with our program, the theme of our second forum is Teaching Color Online, with 3 perspectives from the arts and the sciences. We are delighted to welcome 3 innovative color experts from 3 continents: David Briggs from Australia, Saara Pyykkö from Finland, and Robin Kingsburgh from Canada. Before we begin, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of the program so you all can know the flow of what we're going with it. Each speaker will give a 15-minute presentation. After the presentations, we're going to meet up in breakout rooms for Q&A sessions with the speakers. So that's when the Q&A part begins. And so please be getting your questions together throughout, and make a note of them, because you'll have a chance to actually ask them to the speaker. There's going to be 1 room for each speaker, and each room will have a host moderator from the Color Literacy Project. Q&A sessions are 15 minutes, and you will have a choice of any of the 3 breakout rooms. So after that, we're going to get back together in 1 main room, and for the final part of our 80-minute forum, Robin Kingsburgh will make a special announcement that includes a call for participation with the Color Literacy Project. So please, everybody, stay tuned through the whole program. We are very interested in your feedback. So with that, I'm going to ask everyone except the next speaker, which is David Briggs, to take off your video camera. So just mute that, and we'll just see David. So let me start with our first speaker, Dr. David Briggs. David is representing the fine arts-oriented perspective on color education. And David, if you would like to put up get your presentation ready, that would be marvelous while I'm doing your intro.
Okay. Thanks.
David's talk is titled Introducing the Elements of Color. David is the president of the Color Society of Australia. Hold on 1 second here. Just sorry about that. Okay. David is the president of the Color Society of Australia, co-chair of the AIC study group on art and design, and a member of the Color Literacy Project. His published works include a major website on modern color theory for painters titled The Dimensions of Color. It's a curated collection of links on all aspects of color. So I encourage you to go to that. He'll be telling you more about it. A chapter on color spaces in the Routledge Handbook of Philosophy of Color, and numerous conference presentations and webinars. David has taught classes on color for more than 20 years, including several courses for art and design undergraduates and numerous courses for the general public. The latest of which is Understanding and Applying Color, an 8-week online lecture course available through the National Art School in Sydney. So with that, it is my pleasure to give the floor to Dr. David Briggs. David?
Thanks very much, Luann. Hope you can hear me okay. So my course, Understanding and Applying Colour, was one of the first 4 courses offered online by the National Art School Sydney in June 2020 because of the COVID pandemic. And it had been given over many years, either as a 5-day workshop or as an 8-week term course. But both of those had been about 50% theory and about 50% practical. So the theory component was already in the form of PowerPoint, so that adapted to the online environment very easily. The course is very copiously illustrated. I'm just showing a sample of about 450 slides or so that the students get to keep a copy of. And I'll just run through very quickly the structure over 8 3-hour sessions. The first session is asking the question, what is a colour, and introducing some basic concepts of the relationship of a colour stimulus to what we perceive, and complementarity, things like that. And then the main part of that class is looking at getting across the framework of hue, lightness and chroma as a framework for thinking about colour relationships. So that includes the Munsell system primarily in for physical paints and digital colour spaces for digital painting. Second session looks at colours of light as opposed to colours of objects, and looks at colorimetry. It's possibly a bit unusual for a course that's primarily aimed at painters to look at things like the chromaticity diagram, but it's something that keeps coming up again and again. So it's good to have an understanding of the rationale behind it, and then can look at, again, that of course leads into thinking about some more on digital color spaces. In the third session, we get on to the lower level color vision, in other words, rods and cones and so on, and cone opponency, a very important part of the story that's often omitted, and that leads into understanding of additive color mixture, and then subtractive color mixture, and additive averaging, and pointless mixture as well. So these are sort of the theoretical elements of color mixture. The fourth session is devoted largely to artist paints, the technical properties of paints, and then paint mixture, what systematically going through thinking about what happens when you mix a coloured paint with a white paint, with a grey paint, and so forth, in terms of colour space and why that's happening. Going through technical properties like transparency, tinting strength, and so forth, and then some of the individual important pigments. Next 2 sessions are devoted to colour and light, understanding the physical side of it, as it feeds into the visual appearance of things. We also introduce a couple more attributes of colour, saturation and brilliance and blackness, and the colour relationships under illumination. The next session looking, continuing that theme of what happens when you change the distance of the light source, size of the light source, so forth, and leading into the human side of it, starting with adaptation. And then that continues in the 7th session, which looks at the psychological aspects of colour perception, which things like colour constancy and colour inconstancy, contrast effects and so forth, which are all, of course, very relevant to painters. And then I'd like to finish the course with a historical overview of our understanding of colour, because that helps to bring all of the threads together. And of course, it's a vast subject, so I have a focus on two things: Leonardo da Vinci and his contribution, sort of laying the foundations of, I think, what he thought of as the applied science of visual appearance for painters, and then the development of basically our concept of primary colours and so forth through from the historical primaries through to the revolution of Helmholtz and Hering and so forth, and then how we ended up with the 3 primary story that's still so prevalent today. So that's an overview of the theory component, the lecture component. And with the practical component, we discovered early on that we needed that it was much better to do the practical component as homework outside of the session. So I give homework, optional homework exercises during each session, and the students, if they want to, they can do those and photograph their work and then send work in. So these progress from sort of basic colour mixture exercises through to simple painting exercises in the second half of the term. And I'm just going to talk about the first exercise, which involves asking students to make a series of paint mixtures, evenly spaced perceptually as possible, so we see the full path. And you can see a list of some examples of things, such as it could be starting as simple as mixing a paint with a white paint and looking at how transparent paints differ from opaque paints, mixing a tint with progressively with black, mixing 2 paints that have been mixed to have the same lightness or value, and looking at what happens to the value as they mix, and then mixing various sets of 3 paints arranged as a triangle or a circle to get a picture of the gamut of mixtures that can be obtained with different combinations of paints. So anyway, the students photograph what they've done, ideally under an even light source, and trying to avoid either too much texture, which of course, if you've got, you can have one color of paint, but if you've got too much texture, you also get a whole range of photograph colors, image colors. So trying to have smooth without the weave showing through, and also to avoid sheen as far as possible. And then what I do is sort of as the feedback for this course in the next session is to drop some of these photos into a program. Usually there's a program called ImageJ that has a plugin called Color Inspector 3D, and there the links for it there. And these can be used to show the mixing path in a hue, lightness, chroma, color space, and it just helps the students to sort of think of color relationships in a 3-dimensional context, to think in terms of hue, lightness, and chroma. And just to put it into context before I demonstrate that briefly, I'll just show you the second exercise, or the result of the second exercise, which is the students get some paint samples from a hardware store, and they use this understanding to match those paint samples quite quickly and exactly by thinking systematically in terms of hue, lightness, and chroma, and moving through that space. You can you can get the color you're after quite quickly and efficiently and accurately, which of course is very important for representational painting and any sort of realistic representational painting. You want to be able to get the exact color you want and get it again and again. And so this is really quite important from that context. But I'd add that historically, there's been design courses, certainly in Australia, that have done the same thing, and where the participants report that, that this sort of exercise gives them a nuanced understanding of colour by being able to do that. An intimate familiarity with colour that it's hard to get in other ways. So I'm just going to share now my whole screen and just show you how we can do that. So let's get rid of that PowerPoint. So this up in your top right here, that's what the interface looks like. And the color inspector plugin is here under color. And just before I open the slide, I'll just quickly, if we've got time, just show there's some sample images here, and there's a color cube. And so this can be useful just in the theory section if you want to sort of show a 3D model of various color spaces. There's an RGB cube, and there's a transformation of that into the HSV, which is a space that shows up in Photoshop. And this is Lab is the main one we use, which is of course a digital space that arranges colors according to hue, lightness, and chroma. So we can do that, but I'll close that and get back to this, get this out of the way. So I can open up an image, and I think I'll open that one. So this is some samples. This is ultramarine mixed with white progressively, and so we see the series of mixtures the student got. And if we now go to color inspector, this is the image colors in an RGB cube, but what's more interesting is to see it in lab space. So this is showing lightness or grayscale value going on the L-axis, and then the chroma is shown by the distance out from the center. So you get this, what's happening with these dark opaque, dark transparent paints like ultramarine is that when you add white at first, it of course lightens the mixture, but it also increases the chroma to a point. And if I can drag across here, and you can see the little crosshairs on each mixture we've got. So here we've sort of reached about a maximum chroma. But then past that point, as we add more white paint, of course, it keeps getting lighter, but reducing in chroma. So it just helps you to sort of get a three-dimensional picture of what's happening in terms of the color relationships. We can zoom in, we can remove that perspective if we want to.
I'm sorry, David, 3 minutes left.
3 minutes, that's great, thank you. You can see there's also this sort of neat spiral path there. So what that is showing us is that there's a hue shift. So basically in lab space, we've got the reddish colors here and the greenish colors here. So we're shifting from a slightly reddish blue, the ultramarine when it's purer, to less reddish or slightly greenish blue as it mixes with white. Whereas if
David, I'm going to interrupt for just a minute.
Yes.
David, we want to check to see that everyone is seeing your presentation. I think it looks like most people can. So go ahead.
Okay.
They're letting us know. All right.
They can see. Okay.
Go ahead.
Good. Good to know. So and then this is an opaque paint, and that's different because an opaque paint is pretty much at its maximum chroma straight out of the tube. So it's a simpler story. We're at a maximum chroma there, and as we add white, it gets lighter, of course, and also gets just reduces in chroma. And I probably just have time. This is with the transparent paint thinned out over white instead of mixing with white, and it's a similar story to this. Here we have two paints mixed to be about the same value. I'll make this the last one. And when we look at that in lab space, you can see that the mixtures tend to droop down in value, and this is sort of generally true. Any paints that are fairly far apart in color space, if they're about the same value, they don't stay the same value, they tend to droop down, and that's something to always be aware of when you're mixing. So this just helps you to sort of understand there's some generalities, some regularities. Despite all the variations, there are regularities in how different paint combinations proceed as mixtures in color space, and so it's it relates into that first class where we're talking about that framework of hue, lightness, and chroma. All right, so I might stop share there and come back. So that's it from me.
Thank you, David. That was excellent. And I just, before we move into the second speaker, there's been requests. If you don't mind, during the next speaker, if you could put some of the links in the chat box, people are interested in the links that you share.
Of course, yes, yes, of course. Okay. We'll
Thank you
that.
so much. And for everybody else, if you could mute your camera, except we're going to bring on our next speaker, Saara. So Saara will bring on her camera and we'll bring up her first slide. So that was excellent from David. Our next speaker is Saara Pyykkö. She is representing a design-oriented perspective on color education. Her talk is titled How to Convert an Experience-Based University Course About Color and Light and Space for the Web. Saara is a color researcher, color designer, and educator. She is the president of the Finnish Color Association and one of its founding members. Saara studied at Aalto University, graduating with a master's degree in art education and landscape architecture. Her ongoing doctoral research addresses the question of the architectural color design process of new neighborhoods, focusing on detailed planning and design guidelines of new residential areas. Saara is a member of the study group on environmental color design and the study group on color education. She has over 20 years experience teaching color and visual art in several schools and universities. She continues to teach the Color, Light, Space course at Aalto University. And with that, welcome, Saara. Saara, you have the floor.
Thank you, Luan. Good evening. My name is Saara Pyykkö. I would like to thank you, Color Literacy Project, for this invitation. This case study deals with an MA-level university course named Color, Light and Space at Aalto University. First, I present some background information and the main assignments. The course includes 64 hours contact teaching and 98 hours independent work by students. The participants has had different backgrounds. The course includes lectures, contact teaching, excursions, assignments, critiques, reading seminars, and discussions. We all remember how the pandemic changed university teaching. All teaching needed to force to the web. Excursions and contact teaching became forbidden. The aim of this course is to archive a deep experience-based understanding of the possibilities and the role of color and lighting in built environment. At the end of 2020, I decided to evaluate the structure of the course and to consider the main pedagogical challenge: how to convert the experience-based and learning by doing-based course for the web. How to build experience, perception, discussions, and interaction with students, and to teach architectural color design. Exercises 1A to F are short tasks about color mixing, using watercolors, analyzing colors, practicing the NCS system, using Percival method, and color work. 2ABC includes 3 reading seminars with different topics. Task 3 was the analysis of the architectural atmosphere of a street or a block. The main idea was to study the atmosphere of the site, identifying the main aspects and noticing how those aspects change. The students documented the place with photos, using the NCS color system, and with the personal notes about the atmosphere, the space, the weather, and so on. The last task, 4AB, concluded the earlier task, and the students applied their broadened understanding to real ongoing architectural color design project, including an analysis for A and the sketch of the color design for B. The case was the new block with 3 buildings. The students documented the site with NCS color system and photos. The students used 20 hours with the analysis and 20 with the sketch of the color design. The students presented the sketch for the color design with the NCS codes and building materials. And another sketch of the color design project. If you want to know more about the assignments or background literature, the course is documented in AIC Proceedings 21. The previous course from 17-18 are documented in the article by Angela and Pyykkö in Color Research and Application. And actually I got today email that my AIC 21 conference paper will be published in extended article in the next issue of the journal Pedagogica più Didattica. I found 3 pedagogical points how to convert to experience-based and learning by doing-based course for the web. 1, the new practices and rules of the web-based education environment. 2, pedagogical methods for connecting people during the course. And 3, methods for building the experience of color, light, and space for the web. The first point is most obvious. However, that means more than learning and using many software. My participation in 7 experiences, Auto Experience Summit in September 2020, opened my eyes for web-based communication. At the beginning of the conference, the organizers provide the participants with step-by-step instructions on how to make the atmosphere of the meetings more focused and avoid multitasking or Zoom fatigue. In the first meeting of my course, I presented the rules of the course and I explained the scientific reasons behind it. The students used the sketchbook for the personal notes and they took screenshots from the presentation if needed. To avoid multitasking, no chat was used. To avoid virtual meeting fatigue, after 45 minutes, we had at least a small break, and after 90 minutes, a longer break. During the breaks, I encouraged the students to look out of the window, to take a small nap, and to avoid the social media. The best size of breakout rooms was a group with 4 to 5 participants. In the group of 6 to 7, one student had a role of moderator and other was a secretary. The role of moderator was to activate silent students and to curb talkative persons. The secretary collected answers to the question or results of the discussion. According to one student, as well as the different type of approach, such as literature, the color work, assignment, supported my learning, despite the fact that we didn't see each other. Connecting people refers to methods by which the connection, interaction, and grouping between the students were pedagogically built. The social aspect of student-to-student interaction and well-being were important. During a lockdown, the 4-hour Zoom session could be the students' only social contact of the day. According to the students, the connection was built with the working in breakout rooms, in the discussions of the literature seminars, and working in small group assignments. They appreciated a long-term co-working in task 3 and 4 and learning from each other by working with students from other disciplines. Building the experience refers a single student's experience and shared experience of the group, and how the experience is built in assignments and lectures. The visitors were asked to build their presentation from the perspective of experience. For example, the lectures described the space and the place not only through visual aspect, but also through other senses. Task 1B and 1C opened the sensitivity of the color. Task 3, atmosphere, was an important start to the main analysis and the design assignment. The understanding of the experience and interaction of color, light, and space in human perspective grew through personal perception and experiences on the side, and from sharing those perceptions in mid-grid sessions and discussions with the main group or in breakout rooms. At the end of my presentation, I would like to introduce a new pedagogical tool, the virtual color work. I have developed the color work method for my ongoing doctoral research, but on this course I have used it as pedagogical method too. Normally, we used to walk this route with the students. During the lockdown in 2021, the color work was realized in 2 parts. First, only those students who were able to walk or drive to the area did it. So only half of the students walked physically the route, took photos and made notes. After that, during the next Zoom meeting, we walked virtually the same route in 5 parts and in 5 virtual whiteboards. We use Fling software with this virtual whiteboard like Miro, where the students can add their photos and comments. We discussed their perceptions and experiences that opened the experience of the pedestrian and enlarged the understanding of meaning of views, distances, volumes of architecture, and materials of facades by sharing the experiences. One surprising result of this web-based course was that many students said that they rediscover doing with hands, and they will not use only the computer, but drawing, watercolors, and painting as a design method in the future. One student's comment concludes the main target of the course. I learned a lot about color, light, and space. However, equally important was the teacher's continuous reminding, don't multitask, remember the breaks, and to estimate the hours per task are sufficient. Next, I will offer you an experience of virtual color work, 2 hours Zoom meeting in 3 minutes.
That is such an excellent perspective. And Saara, I think the same question that David had, any of your links, I think Ingrid put one link in the chat box, but if you have other links that, you know, that you've shared, people are very interested in learning about them. So thank you so much. All right, then our third speaker, after we had the fine arts perspective from David and the design perspective and architecture from Saara, and our third speaker is Robin Kingsburgh, and we'll bring Robin up and she starts sharing her screen. Robin Kingsburgh is representing a science-oriented perspective on color education. Her talk is titled, Developing Interactive Activities to Explore the Science of Color. Robin is a trained astronomer and painter. Her background in science comes from the University of Toronto and University College in London. She worked as a postdoctoral fellow in Baja California at the University of Mexico from 1993 to 1996. Her painting experience comes from studies in Canada, France, and the UK, and has paralleled her scientific development. She has long-standing interests in the intersections of art, science, and education. Robin teaches various natural science courses at York University in Canada, including Understanding Color, the History of Astronomy, and, get this, the Nature of Time. She has curated numerous exhibitions and events in the Toronto area and featuring artwork inspired by the ideas and methodologies of science. Robin is co-president of the Color Research Society of Canada, a member of the Color Literacy Project, and an elected member of the Ontario Society of Artists. Please welcome Robin Kingsburgh. Robin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Luann, and thank you to everyone for inviting me to share about my course, Understanding Color. So I'm going to talk about the course a little bit, and I'm going to tell you in particular about one particular assignment that I have developed. So a little bit about me, as Luann mentioned, I'm a trained astronomer and also a painter. And so for me, color is this meeting place of science and art. And the course that I'm going to talk about, Understanding Color, actually came about over a coffee with another physicist whose wife was a painter and he was the chair. And we thought, wouldn't a course, multidisciplinary course about color be really cool for the students? So this was 20 some odd years ago, 22 years ago. I first taught the course when I was pregnant with my son, whose birthday is today, and today is 22. So that's how long the course has been on for. It's a full year course, 24 weeks. So that may not be what you get. A lot of places are just in single semesters now. It's at York University, Toronto. It's a so-called natural science course. So it's a science for non-science students. It's a big class, 265 students. So that's challenging and has tailored, it started smaller, started about 40 or 50 students, and we could go into art studios and paint, but now I get them to do most of their work at home. So they have other sorts of activities they do. There are some artists and designers who take the course, but most students are from non-art backgrounds. So this may be a slightly different cohort from what you teach, but still it's good information and approaches that can be applied. Color is an ideal entryway into science because it embodies this interdisciplinary nature of investigation and collaboration. So the course itself examines many color-related topics from multidisciplinary viewpoints. It is skewed toward science, but we do also do art and history and psychology, and we do lots of different examples in science. You can get a sense of them here. So color is this amazing, ideal STEAM subject: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So it's sort of a place where everything can meet. So when the pandemic started, and I have taught the history of astronomy class online previous to having to adapt this color class to an online format. So it has a large class, so the adaptation is a little bit different, say for students of 20 versus 250 or so students. I have students from all over the world, many time zones. So I went for an asynchronous format and I recorded lectures and posted them weekly. The lectures themselves are broken. So it's nominally 3 hours per week, but it might be a little bit less than that. They get broken into smaller segments, 10 or 20 minutes, depending on the topic. I do intersperse them with videos that have guided video question sheets, exercises, worksheets. So there's a variety of things that students are engaging with in the lecture. There are class forums where students can ask questions. So this is all done asynchronous. And then I have a quiz on the material at the end of the week and then post the next week's material. So the students do need to stay on top. They can't leave everything until the day before the exam. I did a survey after the course and also halfway through the course to see how students were doing, because with this format, it's hard to get feedback. And they had a very positive response, actually. And what they singled out was the flexibility of the course format. They could work through the material at their own pace. It could fit into their schedule, their daily or weekly schedules if they were working, if they had other things that they had to attend to, they could design their own schedule. And the other plus is that with the recordings, they can listen to the lectures multiple times, they can pause lectures, they can go at their own pace. So this course in particular, I thought would be challenging to adapt for online because there are a lot of live demonstrations and interactive in-class elements. So how could I have similar experiences with online learning? And with the pandemic, having mobility restrictions and shopping restrictions. So how could students have access to things? So I thought, well, what could they find around their house or at the grocery store to explore color? So the assignments and investigations, they're based on color explorations on a specific topic, and then followed by critical thinking questions or some type of essay. So the assignment I'll tell you about, I've used this format, and I find it good because they need some sort of interactive way of, using your body. It's a different kind of learning from cognitive learning, but then it's not just the experience that they have. If they go up and they follow it up with intellectual background, then it helps to cement their learning. So using color explorations as a means to engage with your personal environment, notice what are you seeing, ask questions, think critically, and use hands-on experiences to deepen conceptual learning. So I want them to do some kind of fun experiment. You can see some examples in the images here. They write up the experiment using the scientific method. Notice, report, and reflect on what you see. So that's useful for, science students, but it's also useful for artists, and it's useful for everyone to have this methodology of noticing what you see without judgment or without preconceived notions, and recording it and reflecting on that. And then the next part is researching the underlying physical mechanisms, understanding why you see what you see, and allow the experiential to inform the cognitive. So the assignment I'll tell you about is with red cabbage, and red cabbage juice is a natural pH indicator. So they have a section on chemistry of color in the course. And so before they do this assignment, they do get a bit of the scientific background. We do a section on molecules and how they work, bonding, electrons, atoms. They learn all this, the process of selective absorption, how the molecules specifically absorb certain wavelengths of light. Others get reflected to our eye. So they have this background. And then in the chemistry section, we do why color change often signals chemical change, and specific information on the chemistry of pH and indicators. So they do get background material. It's a little conceptual, so having a hands-on experiment like this to do is good. And then going to write an essay about the topics is even better, because then they can take the information in lots of different ways. So here's some sample lecture materials. So they would get information about indicators. They would get information about this particular red cabbage, which is what they're going to do their experiment on. And I'm going to show you in a minute. So this shows you the color range for red cabbage when it's in different environments of different acidity. So I'm going to do a demo. And if I can get someone to spotlight me, I'm just putting on a white shirt as a bib, because I made some of this cabbage juice. So it's red cabbage here. It looks pretty dark. I diluted a little bit here. So it's got this sort of purplish color. So they cut up red cabbage. They make their house smell very nice because it's cabbage. And then I get them to look, here's a clear substance. And if I add a little bit of the indicator to it, it goes this sort of pinkish color. So they're looking around their house for different kinds of substances and seeing what they can find. Here's a blue substance. I add the purple cabbage juice. It goes this green color. So you've got blue something and you've got purple something and you mix it and you get green. What's going on? It's not mixing, it's not color mixing. So it's often an exam question I'll put, why do you use, how do you get blue? What I'm using actually is Windex and colored Windex, purple colored cabbage juice, mix it and you get green. So if they could answer that question and say it's not mixing, then I know that they've understood something. And here's another blue substance, looks very similar, but when you add the cabbage juice, you get a different color. So it's got a different pH. That was blue Gatorade. This is blue Windex. So it gives you different colors. Here's another yellow color. And if I mix purple cabbage juice, what color do I get? I get green. How crazy is that? So wild science. So it's fun to do. I do that in class. And so I get them to do it at home. So I have done this experiment in the past with just not the online course, but it's, you know, how do you get someone to engage with color in their environment? Back to my slides. So when they write up their experiment, they are using the scientific method, stating their purpose, method, observation table, results. So they can put in images of the color before and after. So the clear one I did was 7-Up, and then the color after, and then they can get the approximate pH by something like this. This is a really good site, Compound Chemistry. Discussing their results, what are their conclusions. So they're sort of noticing, reflecting, recording their observations. And these are some examples of student work. So they tried vinegar, toothpaste, baking soda, milk. So they can try all sorts of things around their house. Some students are very enthusiastic and they try lots and lots of substances. They do like this experiment. And then after they've done that, I send them to do a research essay about the chemistry. So, you know, so you could do the experiment. It's easy to do. You could do it at any level. And then the critical thinking piece for the university level comes with, you know, researching about the chemistry of pH. I really want them to understand that chemical change drives color change and how, and, you know, explain it from the molecular level. And also how their experimental results and their research on the physical mechanisms support each other. So they have the experiential, they have the conceptual, can they put them together? Does that reinforce their learning? That is my goal. So in terms of how I dealt with the questions and queries through the course, because it's a
3 minutes left, Robin.
I would occasionally have, okay, thank you. I would occasionally have live office hours, but with scheduling and I don't know, students weren't all that engaged with trying to have more time online when they had to. So I found to deal with it asynchronously, I prepared a video of me discussing the assignment, going over the directions and expectations. Then the students could access that in their own time, access it more than once if necessary, and whenever they were ready to do the assignment. Hopefully not the day before the due date, but you know, that probably happened a chunk of the time. I also created a specific class discussion forum for students to pose questions. So other students could see and answer questions, and I could also jump in and answer questions. I did do a live question and answer session, recorded that, posted it. So again, if students didn't attend, they could access that at a later time. Also dealing with the marker graders for the assignment. I have 5 or 6 TAs for the course and getting everybody together with their schedules. They might be in different countries too. So what I do is I prepare a video of me grading 2 or 3 assignments. The students upload them as a PDF so I can access them. Also, if this TAs ever have queries about grading, they could say, could you look at this student's work? And I could just jump on and have a look and make a comment. They get marking guidelines, and also they can prep for the grading by watching the class lectures. They know what content the students have had. So I discuss how to assess students' work in the video, because learning how to grade is also another thing that TAs have to do, and doesn't often get demonstrated. So I find this video format quite good. And I can point out common mistakes and misconceptions. So regardless of teaching mode, I have a real focus on experiential learning. And some nice quotes here. This is a really nice textbook on experiential learning. It's available online. And it's a process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. And I'm part of this color literacy project, and that's our real focus for reframing color education into experience-based learning. Students need to move from the concrete, observing phenomena, to the abstract, understanding the principles or theories that are derived from the observation of phenomena. So this interplay between the experience and the conceptual. And Kolb, 1984, is very renowned, and his cycle of learning here, they have a specific experience, they reflect on it, they may do active experimentation, and then they are exposed to abstract conceptualization. So these are all aspects, elements of experiential learning. They don't have to be accessed in any particular order, but if you look at each of them in turn and create your assignments with this in mind, then you can deepen the student's learning experience. And this is another good site, actually a really good site for just a general summary of experiential learning. So I'll leave you with a quote from Tony Bates. There is evidence that experiential learning, when properly designed, is highly engaging for students and leads to better long-term memory. So the physical doing, I think our neurons are wired differently when we do things compared to reading things or listening. And so if you can take advantage of all 3, then you get better long-term memory. Proponents also claim that it leads to a deeper understanding and developed skills for a digital age, such as problem solving, critical thinking, improved communication skill, and knowledge management. And as educators, that's what we're all about. So thank you. And again, thank you to Luann and Maggie for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Robin. And that was very, very good. And thank you to all of our speakers. I think this was extremely interesting format. And I thank you for sharing your research. Robin, I know you have some links that people are going to be interested in. So if you can put them in the chat box, that's great. We're going to move in right now, right into our next portion. I'm going to ask the speakers to turn on, all the speakers to turn on their cameras, and also the moderators, so we can introduce you. We have Robert Hirschler and David in our breakout sessions. We're going right into our 15-minute breakout sessions, and you'll get to choose. Hopefully our technology goes right, and I'm going to be behind the scenes trying to make sure if you have any questions, I'll be in the main room. But room number 1 is David and Robert Hirschler. Robert, you want to give us a wave? There's Robert. As host moderator. Room number 2 is Saara and Harold Enkel. Harold, and room number 3 is Robin with moderator Ingrid Calvo-Ivanovic. There's Ingrid. So with that said, I'm going to, hopefully this works. Just before I do this, turn on, and you should have a link to all 3. You should have a choice to be in all 3 shortly. When you get into the room, you're welcome to turn on your camera, and then you can put questions in the chat box, or the host will ask you to present your question in person. Whatever you do, I mean, if you don't press that N button, the red button on your lower right, because that'll get you out of our program. But if you do, come back, we'll admit you back in. So after the end of the 15 minutes, we're going to come back. So don't go away. We have a announcement for participation from you all, for Robin to close the program out in our last 10 minutes. So with that, I'm going to open up the breakout sessions and hold on one second and see everybody there. So here we go. Looks like everybody's coming back in. Yay, technology. It looks like it worked. I'm so happy about this. I'm going to ask everyone except Robin to mute, and I think you all are muted, but also turn off the camera right now. I first wanted, we're in our last couple of minutes of our program, and thank you to the speakers once again. Thank you to the moderators, and thank you to all of you for being with us. I'm going to turn the last part of the program over to Robin. She's going to close it with a call to you for participation. So thank you for me to everyone, and it was such a great experience, and I look forward to hearing from you. And Robin, please have the floor.
Okay, so we would like to, as part of one of our objectives for the Color Literacy Forum is to network and share knowledge. So this Color Literacy Forum, we're going to meet a few times a year and have speakers and interactions on different topics. But we would also like to post any color exercises that you've developed at the post-secondary level, so university, college, and we'd like to post it on our website, which I'll show you in a moment. We invite you to contribute, and we have a form available that you can download and fill out. We will test the exercises and post those that align with our 21st century vision for color education. So we're very much into experiential practice and moving away from the traditional color theory. You may find that sometimes your students get a little bit stuck on that, and there are certain misconceptions that come with that. This is a conversation we could have at other time, but we would like to allow you to contribute to our project. And if you have exercises or assignments focusing on teaching color online, particularly in this case, and you'd like to share, please download the form from our website. And let me just go to our website here. So this is the Color Literacy Project. If you don't know the website, we're starting to pull it together a little bit more. So the events we have about our Color Literacy Forum and International Color Day. We have resources, books that we recommend, online resources, color talks and lectures, top 10 lists. So I invite you to check this out. And then for educators, this is where you will get the file. My computer is slow. So a little bit of the background of what we are and what we're hoping to do. And this, I'm going to change this email from, we have an info email to send to, so I will update that. But there's a form that you can fill out. And there's a Word and PDF format. So we will sort of compile on the website different color exercises so people can try them out in their classrooms, different examples. And we have a particular format that we would like you to follow. And then we will put this up. We will test them out, and the successful ones will get posted on our website. So a little bit about you, a little bit about the exercise, your learning outcomes, because we're educators. You need to have that. If there's a step-by-step process, what your step-by-step process is. Also how you evaluate. I had that question in the questions breakout session that we just had. How do I evaluate 265 students? Yeah, so what am I looking for in that particular exercise? I will put up this cabbage juice pH indicator exercise any suggestions, things to look out for, references, and so on. So you can download the Word version or you can download the PDF version, whatever works for you. And then also please do have a look around our website. Here's our mission statement. And if you haven't joined and you're interested to join the study group on color education, there's a link to sign up for that. So thank you again to everybody for coming, and thank you to Color Literacy Forum for inviting us to come and share our work with you. Very happy to do that. Very happy to see everybody. So thanks again to Luann and to Ingrid and to Maggie. And we will see you. Our next forum will be in November, and we will let you know the exact date. So please stay tuned to our website. Any last words, Luann? Are we good?
Oh,
We're good. Okay.
I'm thrilled. All the technology worked. Our speakers were excellent. The breakout rooms worked really well, as far as I know. So thanks to everybody. And I think just again, we are what we're doing is reinventing or inventing 21st century color education. And it takes all of us to put this forward and to really, to really let everybody know what it is that we're doing. I mean, what color is for this time that we live in, and we need all resources and all hands on deck. So again, thank you so much and stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.